Hey everybody, I hope you guys are doing well. Um, I hope you had a great weekend. Before we get started with this video, I know these are just some topics that I was just thinking about. Like, instead of just doing separate videos, how about I just kind of smash some things together? And so I decided to do that this morning before I head off to work. But before I get into my conversations with y'all, go ahead, do me a favor. Here's my information if you want to follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Listen, I'm terrible at that. The last thing I posted, I believe, was about Teddy Riley and Babyface when they met up. And you know how long ago that was. Okay, so don't hold me to that one. My email if you ever want to contact me. And then, of course, if you want to support the channel. So I feel like I've been gone for days. I really haven't, but it feel like it. And mostly because I just kind of been over here at a standstill, y'all. So a few days ago, let me tell y'all this little story. A few days ago, my a person that assists me at work went home because they said they weren't feeling well and they were having chills and a fever, y'all. And so of course, I'm like, what the hell? So they went and got tested the same day, but I was just sitting there in limbo waiting to see what was happening because if like you think it's the Rona, the Ronski, so I don't know what it is. And so for the last few days, I'm like, well, I can't be around my granddaughter. And what happens if she has it? If the woman comes back positive, then, everything kind of just shut down and I'm in quarantine. It was just like all the things that run through your head. Now, of course, she just got her results back yesterday and she was negative. And of course, I didn't want her to, feel bad. But the next few days or so, she said she felt better. I think it was, and it's so hard to know, right? It's so hard to know when it's just like a regular cold or you just having a stomach flu. You don't know. But that scared me. Okay. But she tested negative and, I was just worried. So I didn't want to really do anything. Just sitting here just like, damn, what I'm going to do in the house for the next 2 weeks. Now some of y'all might be like, oh, that's great. 2 weeks off? No, it wasn't 2 weeks off. I still had to do stuff, but I really kind of was at a standstill. But I am glad that she's okay, and I'm glad she tested negative. Okay, whew. But that's how close I was. Like, oh shit, oh man, I just thought about all the shit that would have to change. But I am glad that she's okay. Okay, now let's get into these topics. First topic is Alex Trebek. I was very, very sad to hear of his passing. I knew that he had been sick, and to be frankly honest, I thought he was actually, I know pancreatic cancer is pretty serious, and it has a very low survival rate, but I remember they had said he had just taped, like maybe his last show on October 29th, so to see that he had passed away pretty much after that, that was kind of devastating. And for me, because, listen, I grew up on Alex Trebek. My grandmother watched Jeopardy every day. My mother watched Jeopardy every day. And don't get me started on my mama. Rest in peace, my mama. If she got one of them answers right, you couldn't tell her a damn thing for the rest of the day. Now, she wasn't getting no $1,000 or even $800 question right. But if she got one of them 200, 400, don't let her get a 600. But my mother was, I just came from parents who just loved to read, and they was just into like that kind of stuff and would watch a lot of PBS and stuff like that. So don't let her get something right. You couldn't tell her shit. And I kind of ended up being that way too, because I keep my TV on when I'm going out the house. I don't know if it's a black person thing. I don't know. I just keep it on to make it sound like somebody up in the house, and it be on Jeopardy when I get home. Okay, and I'll sit there when I come in. Don't let me get something right then. Don't let me get something right. I'm a fucking genius, okay? Call Mensa, okay? I'll be like, with y'all dumbasses. I just be kind of looking at people like, with your dumb ass, okay? You didn't get that question, right? That kind of shit. That's how I was. But nonetheless, rest in peace to Alex Trebek. Again, he's been on the air for 30-something years. And like I said, I grew up on this show. I always preferred like a Wheel of Fortune or Pressure Luck or something like that to a Jeopardy. But nonetheless, I feel like I have learned things. Like you had learned something. And then most recently, he's been putting like a little bit more like pop culture trivia in there. So, I can get that one right. And it just it's so funny to kind of watch the people that be on there. And you can just tell they don't necessarily be knowing nothing about that kind of stuff. But it's just kind of funny to listen to him read read the answer, right? And I just that just kind of like when I saw that he passed away, that kind of touched my heart. I'm like, oh my gosh, not Alex Trebek, but he hung on as long as he could. And like I said, I was really actually surprised that he did in fact pass away like that. So rest in peace to Alex Trebek. And they've been already talking about who to replace him. They was thinking about Ken Jennings, who was a contestant on the show. I think he's from my home, like my area, somewhere up in there. They was talking about LeVar Burton, which LeVar Burton would be a good one, but I just don't like the whole idea of automatically just talking about replacements for this man who has, dominated and ran the show for like 30 plus years or something like that. Just give it some time before y'all start getting into the who should replace him, who should take this role on, who should take that role on. I say just give it some time and, it'll work itself out. I think the last show of Jeopardy is actually supposed to air Christmas Day. So he had been taping shows through his illness. All right. And it reminds me a lot of, with Chadwick Boseman. I was watching Black Panther last night, and now that I look at Black Panther, I look at it a little different because I think about the fact that this man was, doing all this while he was sick. So rest in peace to Alex Trebek, a huge part of my childhood. Next up is I saw this news that they are, this is Terry McMillan, if you don't know who this is, and she wrote Waiting to Exhale. And I saw the news that they are making a TV series based on Waiting to Exhale. And, I have mixed feelings about this. First things first, I don't think it would have the same effect as it would have, say, 20 years ago. 20 years ago, if you wanted to make Waiting to Exhale a TV series, to me, it would have made sense. It just would have made sense. Now, all you're going to get is a knockoff version of Girlfriends, or hell, maybe something better than Sisters, but that's a whole nother conversation. I don't understand what the point is in bringing this to life, especially for a different generation who didn't necessarily read the book, may have seen the movie, may have. It just seems late. And I know that Lee Daniels is producing it, and it's going to be written, I believe, by Tim B. Locke and someone else. And, Tyler Perry don't have his hands on it. That's a whole different story, y'all. But I do, when I see stuff like this, and I see that they are bringing something like this to life, and they're going to create a series around it, I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over and over about Hollywood. Hollywood keeps recycling ideas and remaking things because they have run out of ideas. And I don't want to necessarily call them lazy creatives. A part of me feels like that, but it's like, don't you have any more ideas to present before you come out and just throw something at us and like, hey, we're going to remake this, we're going to remake that. Every time you turn around, they're remaking something. They remade The Witches, Roald Dahl's book, The Witches, the first movie with Angelica Houston, which I thought was a great movie. They have remade it with Anne Hathaway. And I'm just thinking to myself, why? If you want kids to watch these things, pull out the old one. Watch the old one. There was nothing wrong with the original. Why are you remaking them? They keep remaking movie after movie. And it's like, who is asking for this remake? So when I look at A Waiting to Exhale, and it's being turned and adapted into some kind of series, and you got Lee Daniels on, I don't even know what that's going to look like. Okay. I hope it ain't Empire-ish. Okay. I really hope it's not. But when you see something like that, you think to yourself, why? What is the reason? What is the reason? Why are they doing this? And who will best fit those characters? Them being so very, very, very different. Who will best fit those characters? I don't know. I just not here for that. I just think like they missed the window. They missed their window to remake A Waiting to Exhale. Because, I remember reading this book when I was in college, like 94-ish. I think I read the book or something like that. It was a big deal back then. Like, everybody was reading the book. Everybody was reading the book. And of course, when the movie came out, it was a huge deal. We all went out together. We went and watched the movie. And in my mind, I saw the characters much different than who played them. I wouldn't have, I guess, picked Angela Bassett, but I think she did really well. I think it worked. I think it absolutely worked in her favor. And, because Angela can do anything. She's versatile. She can play anybody. But, so at the time in the 90s, we were excited about that. So had you made a show, based on the movie, like later on, down the line, when you still had that window where it was a big deal, right? And Terry McMillan was a hot art, like How Stella Got Her Groove Back, that kind of stuff. If you had made a show in that window, even in the early 2000s, I think, it may have worked, but I just don't know how connected people will be to this show without, I don't know, comparing it to, like I said, a Girlfriends. I don't know if it's supposed to be a drama. I don't know if it's supposed to be a comedy. I'm assuming like drama, more along the lines of drama. So then you're going to get like a sisters type of thing. I hope not, though. I hope not. Now, what I heard, I'm always on Tyler Perry's ass. I'm always on Tyler Perry's ass. And I think he's a decent human being. He's done a lot of great stuff out there. But Tyler, I hear that he is getting writers. I hear that he is hiring some writers, and I'm hoping that is true, because my Lord, I can make a completely different video. I won't. I'll leave Tyler alone. Okay. But his writing is just so lazy. It is just so lazy. And I try to watch Sisters just to support. I really do, because I've supported Tyler Perry since I know who Tyler Perry was. I try to watch his shows to support, and a lot of times I just cannot get through an entire one. I can't do it. It is just the laziest writing I've just witnessed ever, to be perfectly honest with you. And so I am hoping that whatever Lee Daniels and the young ladies, women are actually writing this. So there's a positive spin on that. Tyler Perry writes all of his stuff. He literally writes for Black women. I don't understand it. I can't understand it, but they do have Black women that will be writing for this Waiting to Exhale TV adaptation, right? So I am glad to see that, and that that you will have Black women's voices writing for Black women, as I personally feel like it should be. There's nothing wrong with a male perspective and adding a man's 2 cents to the whole conversation, but not, in my opinion, to be solely for Black women. I'm annoyed by that, and I'm annoyed that Tyler Perry does that. I do, but people gonna sit here and be like, well, he a billionaire, and billionaires can do what they want. Yeah, and billionaires can sit there and have their people make a show, record a show, tape a show in 5 days or 4 days or 3 days and brag on it, and the show be shit. It'd be terrible. Yeah, billionaires can do that too. All right, but I digress. But I want to know what you guys think about that. Are you looking forward to this, TV show, Waiting to Exhale? Obviously, not the original characters, obviously, but it is based on the book, based on the movie, Waiting to Exhale. Produced by Lee Daniels, none other than Lee Daniels, y'all. So who knows what the hell that's going to look like. But yeah, just wanted to put that out there and talk a little bit about that, because I just find that rather interesting that they are definitely going to bring this back. To me, 20 years too late, but that's just how I feel about that on that. Okay. Whitney Houston. I miss Whitney Houston. I love me some Whitney Houston. I was listening to this interview with Young Berg last night, in which he just kind of said some really disparaging, and maybe he don't think it was disparaging, but he brought up Whitney Houston and said that she was in a hotel room, you know, with her and Ray J, and he walked in on her in the nude. And I just think, like, to myself, like, leave that woman alone. Let that woman rest in peace. They already got holograms out here of Whitney Houston. Now you're trying to bring her. And we know Whitney was wild. We know she was a wild child. But you do not need to bring her up in that manner. It's just, dudes are different these days. Dudes are absolutely different these days. All right. But I digress. That's all I got to say about that. But again, chime in and let me know how you guys feel about them remaking Waiting to Exhale, making it as a TV series. And who do you think maybe should play these roles? Who do you think should play Savannah? He's a good man, Savannah. You know, that who you think should play these roles, you know, of these women? Because I think that these women did a phenomenal job. They did a phenomenal job, and the movie worked really, really well. Last but not least, let's talk about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Now, I had no interest in watching no damn Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I have to be honest with you. It just did not connect with me, because all I could think about is, like, I don't want to see a bunch of women talk about their Mormon faith. And they delivered. I'll tell you that much. They definitely delivered. They said Mormon so many times. If I had taken a drink every time they said Mormon, y'all. But anyway, the reason why most people tuned in to the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City is for Mary Cosby. Okay. Now, Mary is the one, if you've never watched the show, and I ain't telling you, you got, you know, go watch it, but Mary is the one that I heard about long before the show came on the air. Mary is the only Black woman on the show. And what makes her story so interesting, okay, and weird, is that she married her step-grandfather. Now, I when I first heard it, I heard grandfather. I didn't hear step, you know, so I was like, ew. And then when I heard step granddad, I still said ew, because I still think that's weird. That's just weird on so many levels. So the tea that's been on the street for a minute, okay, because I be on Lipstick Alley and they be having the news, they be having the stuff, and Reddit too. Reddit, if you can, Reddit is hard to go on, but it be having some of the craziest stories on there. And if you can just take it, it'll take you down a rabbit hole a lot of times. But if you can stand it, sometimes the shit on Reddit just be like crazy. Okay. If I ain't doing nothing, like on a Saturday afternoon, I'm just sitting here, I would just be sitting on Reddit like, oh my gosh, you can't be serious. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And so Reddit had some tea on Mary and this whole thing with Mary and her grandfather, because the way she presented it on the first episode was that it was arranged marriage. Her and her step-grandpappy is sitting there. It was arranged. So apparently there was this arrangement that Mary's grandmother made. Mary's grandmother was some big prominent figure in their Pentecostal church. And when she died, she supposedly willed Mary to her grandfather, step-granddaddy, whatever. I'm just going to say grandpappy. Her granddaddy, okay? Because once you marry in, you my granddaddy too, so that's nasty. But nonetheless, I was reading on Reddit, y'all, and I want to give you some tea on the whole Mary thing, because again, this is just weird to me. Now, Mary comes off like the type of person that she want to read all the girls down on the show, right? She want to read all the girls down. She's a label whore. And what I mean by that is all she talk about is Louis Gucci Prada, pop them tags. All she talk about is her labels, but she just be looking a goddamn mess. And I'm going to need Mary to get it together. Mary, if you're going to be the only Black woman on the show with all the labels, you're going to have to get the hair together. And that was and I hate to be that person, but Mary's wig was just not right. And I know they in Utah, maybe they don't have a beauty supply down the street, but Vivica Fox has a nice collection of wigs, if that's your thing. And Mary, if she got all this money to do all this ugly bullshit, I don't know why celebrities think that just because it got like a high price tag on it, that is cute. But nonetheless, they do. Okay. But let's get into the whole tea about Mary and her grandfather. So again, I'm going to read it verbatim to y'all, okay? From somebody on Reddit that knew the whole situation with them, because Mary's a part of the Pentecostal church. She's like one of the first ladies, or like a big time person in this particular sector of the church. So it says, most of my entire family was born into Faith Temple. What this article, and I'm sure that Bravo will forget to mention, is that Mary had a husband before she married the bishop 1 year after her grandma died. His name is Dana Harris. When Mary's grandma died in 1997, Bishop would be preaching and telling all the women in the church that they better leave him alone and not try getting with him, that God already sent Mary Martha to comfort him in his time of mourning. Mary Martha was spending so much time at his house right after that, rumors started spreading quick. He would be preaching this from the pulpit, telling the church to quit gossiping and that she was strictly comforting him. He would go on and say, her husband doesn't mind. Why do any of you? He then shortly thereafter called Dana out. Dana is the husband. Called Dana out in front of the entire church, telling the congregation that he was allowing Mary Martha to divorce Dana because Dana was forcing Mary Martha to perform unclean sex acts on him, aka oral sex. Then he immediately kicked Dana out of the church, and shortly thereafter, the bishop called a family meeting with all of Mama's children. Mama is the grandmother that passed away, including Mary Martha's mom, Rosie Cazares. He told all of the family that he needed them to pray on something that God was telling him, and he wanted them to all to pray to God and ask him for an answer, yes or no, without telling them what it was. Of course, they all said, yes, Bishop. God said yes. All of them except for Mary Martha's mom, Rosie. She said no. Then, with the approval of most of his late wives' children, he told them all that God was telling him and Mary Martha to get married. Hence, that is how Mary Martha married her step-granddaddy 1 year after her grandma died and became the first lady and co-pastor of Faith Temple Pentecostal churches. Her mom, Rosie, who was the choir director at the time, a job that Mary Martha would take over after she left, was not having the marriage of her daughter to her own stepdad. So her and her husband, Mark Cazares, tried to take over the church and kick the bishop out. That failed, so they left the church and took over half of the congregation with her and started a new church called Mama's Faith Temple. It is also in Salt Lake City. What Bravo will almost surely forget to mention, as well, is that Mary Martha and the bishop actively brainwashed their congregation into believing they are God on earth, that God came down and has taken over their bodies, and that they are literally the saviors of the earth alongside Jesus. They call it the revelation. Before Mama died, it only pertained to her, but after she died, Mary and Bishop have taught that it is on them now. They have the church members running around yelling back and forth to each other, Mary is God, and rolling around speaking in tongues, going crazy over that nut job. Before Mary took over the church, the revelation was that Mama is God, but now it's Mary is God. And the only way to be saved in that cult is to get that revelation and profess it at every chance you get, in secret and to each other. Of course, because nobody wants the secret getting out to say the creators of the Real Housewives franchise. All right. And so that is the tea, y'all. Okay. I also saw, because, listen, that is Reddit, but it was put on Lipstick Alley. And if you go on Lipstick Alley, you can see all kinds of shit. You can see all the shit about Mary's grandmother, because she was kind of like the head of all of this at one time. They had a lot of money, and so she was buying up lots of different properties. She was buying up all kinds of stores and stuff like that. And she even bought Mary's mother her own store. It was called Rosie's Balloons or something along those lines. So this woman had a lot of money, which is why this is kind of how they say Mary justifies the reason why she wanted her granddaughter to marry the bishop, to keep the money in the family. Now, I still don't, I don't get it. I personally could not. And I could see if all of this is indeed true, this is all allegedly, but if all of this is indeed true, as a mother, I would have objected to the whole idea of my daughter marrying her step grandfather. That is just extremely odd, right? That's very, very odd. And I wonder how much they're going to gloss over it, or how much they're going to touch on it in this franchise on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, if they're going to go there about it. because apparently it's been the word on the talk of the town forever. Even the white people, Mormons, even think that this shit is weird. The white Mormons even think that this shit is weird, okay? And a lot of their sectors, their sects, you know, because they go off into different groups too, right? Some of them believe in polygamy, right? And keeping it in the family and stuff like that. So if white people think that this shit is weird, that's a stretch. I mean, I don't understand it, but I am kind of curious to see where they're going to go with her storyline. Because on the first episode, Mary, she was like, it's this other woman on there. I think her name is Jen. Jen, who claims that people in Salt Lake City think she's black. She's this Polynesian woman who married a black man, and now she say, well, they don't know what to call me, so they just think I'm black. And I'm just like, we're not doing this. We're just not. But anyway, Mary and her, I guess they had like some differences before, because Mary apparently told this woman, because Mary had went into surgery. She had surgery. I guess she got like her sweat glands removed or something like that. And she said, when I saw Jen, she smelled like hospital, and I got really, really sick, and she got offended because I said she smelled like hospital. I'm just thinking, Mary, you married your step granddaddy. You married your granddaddy. I mean, if you can do that and not throw up, then you can deal with somebody that possibly smell like hospital. That's just crazy to me. But nonetheless, I'm seeing if I'm like going to really kind of stick to this franchise and watch it and see how much of this shit comes out. I'm very, very curious as to if a lot of these things come out. But you know, once these people get on TV, people will dig up their dirt. Okay. When these reality TV people get on here, people start digging and putting their shit out there. And like I said, it's so much stuff out here about Mary. I know she has done several interviews about this, but I'm telling you, I just get the skeevies when I think about this. Like, it's just like you grew up with this man as your grandfather. Like, you know, that's just like, y'all know the comparison. If your grandfather passed away and your grandmother got remarried, and now and she had kids with the man. So it's not like it ended there. They have a family together. They have children. Okay. They have actual children together. I cannot. But I will watch it to see if Mary gets her hair together, if she get her shit together. Because again, if she gonna be reading the girls, if she gonna be reading the rest of the girls and constantly talking about her tags and her labels and Gucci and Louis and Prada and Birkin or whatever the hell she got, and not get her hair together, we gonna have a problem. All right. And I'm having a hard time trying to figure out her age too. It's hard to tell on the show. Like, what is she? How old is this woman? It's kind of hard to tell, right? But nonetheless, that's the only reason I'm kind of tuning in, because I really do want to see how this play out and how this work out. Okay. But anyway, I don't want to keep this too long. I think I kept y'all long enough. I said I wanted to talk about Alex Trebek and the Waiting to Exhale. And then Miss Mary, like, you know, you remember that show, 227, Mary. I just want to talk about Mary for a minute before I get up out of here. And let me know if you guys, do you watch it? Are you going to watch it? Have you heard anything more about Miss Mary? Because that is crazy to me. Okay, I'm going to give another episode. I'm going to watch one more time. I think it come on Wednesdays at 7 or 8. I think maybe 8 o'clock. But anyway, I'm going to see if I'm going to tune in one more time to see what the tea is and see if I'm just really that invested in that. Okay. Cause I already watch enough Real Housewives as it is. Okay. Atlanta coming back on soon. So that's what I'm on. And then of course I watch Potomac. Anyway, that's all I got for y'all today. I'm going to come back with another video, and that's kind of it. That's kind of all. Let me know what you guys think about all of these different topics. And I will see you guys on the next video. You guys have a lovely Monday. Have a lovely week. God bless all of you. And like, comment, share, and subscribe. Take care, y'all. Bye.